Mr. President, for 2023 alone, the accomplishments of PDEA are as follows. 1,068 positive intelligence operations were conducted. 2,386 drug-related negation operations were conducted. 72 high-impact operations were conducted. 3,196 drug personalities were arrested. 50 minors were rescued. 263 high-value targets were arrested. 2.3 billion worth of dangerous drugs were confiscated. 5,702 drug cases were filed in courts. 5 additional Balay Silangan Reformation Centers were established. 1,850 advocacy activities were conducted. 27,903 barangays were drug cleared as of October 31, 2023. That's so far the operational accomplishments of PDEA.
Ito pa suggestion lang, Mr. President, na napapansin ko when they announce their achievements. You use the value. Pero I suggest hindi ako tumitingin sa value. We have to look at the volume. Kasi value, siyempre, naging 500 pesos, tumaas ang value. Pero look at the volume siguro of the whole of the catch. So, sige, so yung 2.3 billion pesos na nabanggit, ilang kilos po yun and what kind of drugs? Pag nagbabasa nga ako ng mga reports, nakikita ko yung mga amount, billions na. Pero I'm not impressed. Dapat na doon tayo sa ilang kilos po yun, ano pong volume yun.
Yes, Mr. President, as far as volume is concerned, 28,826 kilograms of crystalline shabu, 714 liters of liquid shabu, 99 billion pieces of marijuana plants, 16 billion pieces of marijuana seedlings.
May counting machine sila, Mr. President. You have a counting machine. You counted the seeds.
Well, individually, yung seedlings, Mr. President, hindi seeds. Seedlings. Seedlings talagang.
Seedlings.
By area daw yung computation, Mr. President.
Estimate. We were just lightening the
recommended budget for the Dangerous Drugs Board is 334 million pesos in new appropriations, and for Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency is 4.07 billion pesos in new appropriations, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the permission of our sponsor, if I may proceed, Mr. President.
Yes, Your Honor.
We will try our visits. It's already 7 p.m. and susunod pa yung DAR and DA. This is also very important. We'll try to keep our interpellation short and sweet and not hallucinating, Mr. President. Taka ako magsisegue ngayon sa Dangerous Drugs Board, Mr. President. Mr. President,
Yes.
there is a rule, no? There's a rule that for prescriptions for so-called dangerous drugs, even to patients, the physicians, dentists, veterinarians, and other medical practitioners are to secure a special prescription. This is a DDB requirement, imposed requirement?
Yes, Your Honor. It is stated in Republic Act 9165, Your Honor.
Yes.
Of the Dangerous Drugs Act.
The principle is there, pero the identification of what these dangerous drugs are, nasa kamay ng DDB. Apa.
Yes, Your Honor.
And so that means the DDB issues the special prescription form or authority, special license yata to.
The license, Your Honor, is being issued by PDEA, and the regulation is being exercised by the Dangerous Drugs Board.
Meaning to say, as to yung specific drugs that we need that the medical practitioner can prescribe under a special license issued by PDEA. Okay, we get
Yes,
it.
Your Honor.
Kasi kahapon sa DOH, may program sila, close to 1 billion pesos yon for mental health commodity items which will be available sa barangay health center. are those medicines, mga 30 medicines daw yun, to be made available to the barangay health centers for mental health condition? Are those 30 medicines already known to the PDEA? And do this need special license for dispensing, Mr. President?
According to the DDB, Your Honor, not yet.
Please coordinate with
Not
the
yet.
DOH para...
They just met Your Honor yesterday from with the Pain Society of the Philippines,
Pain.
because some of these drugs are not dangerous.
Okay.
So
Not, okay.
no need for license and
Correct,
special prescription from the
So
DDB.
most likely, since Barangay Health Center ang availability nitong 30 meds na to, these are not in the list. Ano bang tawag doon sa list? Parang may A, B at A, B ba yan, Mr. President?
It's called the Controlled Medicines
Controlled.
Dangerous Drugs Schedule, Your Honor.
And then how many schedules are there? Schedule 1, Schedule 2, parang gano'n, ano?
Yes, there are 4 schedules,
Okay.
Your Honor, Mr. President, based on the United Nations Drug Control Convention.
Guidance lang yun. That the United Nations issuances do not bind us. But we use them as our guidance.
We are a signatory to the convention, Your Honor. So I think it's binding for us.
CBD is a cannabis extract. Is CBD a cannabis extract? Considered a cannabis extract.
Yes, Your Honor.
Diba?
Yes.
Parang all cannabis extracts yata fall within one of these schedules, di ba? So, my point, Mr. President, kaya ko ito rin-raise, parang nagbago na ang attitude and policy as well as the legal rules over CBD of some countries, especially what we call the Western world, to which the Philippines is greatly exposed. So, ang kinakatakutan ko is there are some products readily available in those countries, legal, with CBD, which, unwittingly, some of our constituents and even probably visitors to the country may be bringing in. Technically, that's against the law as of the moment, Mr. President.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yun na.
Yes.
Now, anong alam natin na hindi nila alam o anong alam nila na hindi natin alam? Since the Dangerous Drugs Board is already aware of the situation, the changing attitudes as well as legal regime in other countries and scientific findings siguro, will we be adjusting our schedules, Mr. President?
Your Honor, as far as the DDB and PDI is concerned, we still follow our domestic law pertaining to drugs, and that is the Dangerous Drugs Act.
Yeah.
So we cannot just adjust right away without amending the law.
So the listing with the schedules is provided by law, not by an issuance of the DDB.
We just we follow the schedule given to us by the United Nations Drug Control Convention, Your Honor. And as far as illegal drugs is concerned, it is very clear in our 9165.
Yes,
Ano
yes,
yung-
oo. But yung specific naming, yung schedules doon, yung the extracts of cannabis, etc., is that part of the law or part of an issuance by the Dangerous Drugs Board pursuant to law?
It's part of the law, Your Honor, because according to the definition under Republic Act 9165, dangerous drugs include those listed in the schedules annexed to the 1961 Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs as amended by the 1972 Protocol and in the schedules annexed to the 1971 Single Convention on Psychotropic Substances as enumerated in the attached annex, which is an integral part of this act. So meaning covered sila, Your Honor, by the
Correct.
SAC.
So, has the DDB added anything to that list?
There's none, Your Honor.
Nothing.
Nothing.
You have not added to the list. You have not subtracted from the list. Okay.
There's none, Your Honor.
Are those Western countries also a member of the treaty that we have mentioned, or the agreement we have mentioned?
Yes, Your Honor, these Western countries, around the 140 countries are signatories to the United Nations Convention on Dangerous Drugs.
Okay, so it's clear now that the terms of the treaty can be adjusted by the by a country, no? So but in the Philippine setting, ang lumalabas from the inputs of the DDB, we need to do it through law, legislation.
Yes, Your
Sige,
Honor.
we'll take a look at that, Mr. President, kasi yung cannabis yata, to correct me if I'm wrong, the science behind this, dalawa yatang elements yan, the THC and the CBD. And then ang scientific studies yata, the addictive element is the THC. Okay. Yung isa, CBD, may claimed, pero claim pa lang yan. I mean, that's not scientifically proven yet siguro. A claimed medicinal or palliative or health beneficial health effect. That's the claim, but di natin ini-endorse po yung finding na yon. So that is the case, yun lang yung ayokong mangyari. But has there been a case to the knowledge of the DDB na naging issue ang possession of a product with the CBD here in the Philippines?
Yes, Your Honor, there were several interceptions made at the airport, Your Honor, for going home Filipinos who were in possession of these drugs, Your Honor.
And legitimately available from his point of origin, in the market of his point of origin.
Legitimately available from his point of origin, but banned at the point of entry.
May we know how you treat such cases?
So, the same, Your Honor, we treat them as violations of law. So, confiscated ang item, then cases will be filed against these people. So, maybe kawawa rin yun. No? I get your point. Kawawa talaga yung mga Pilipino na akala nila okay na kasi okay sa Thailand. Bakit hindi okay sa Pilipinas? Ngayon, dinala na dito. Nahuli sila sa airport. Problema. So, maybe kailangan natin siguro ng public information drive
Na bawal.
according to this na bawal talaga ito.
Na bawal, but is the DDB endorsing some revisit of the law? Change in our outlook towards this supposed to be non-addictive component called CBD?
Mr. President, according to DDB, yung inaalaw nila is yung meron lang 0.02% THC content. Medical preparation.
Medical?
Medical preparation. THC, medical preparation. 0.02.
What's THC?
Tetrahydrocannabidiol.
That's the THC.
Yes,
That is
THC.
supposed to be the addictive component. So, okay.
How about yung hindi addictive component?
Bawal. I mean, ako, bawal yun. Kasi I think scientific data tells us that is the addictive component of cannabis. So, wala tayong dapat baguhin doon, Mr. President. The other component na available na ngayon sa other markets, doon lang ako nag-alala. In good faith, binili doon, akala niya legal. Siyempre, ignorance of the law excuses no one. But the point is, this is a very complicated law found in an annex pa. Annex. Oh. Ewan ko, mag-survey tayo rito. Ilan na nakabasa ng annex eh. Oh.
Well, as long as it is in a medical form that is registered in the country of origin, walang problema, Your Honor, pero iba talaga yung sinasabi mo. Iba yung gusto mong sabihin. Pero yung we are constrained by law about our treatment. Hindi man pwede natin sabihin na hindi namin kakasuhan ito dahil naawa kami. clearly it's a violation of law. But as you have said, ignorance of the law excuses no one. So yan ang dilema ngayon ng PDEA at DDB. Kung ano treatment talaga, kawawa talaga.
Yes, if it's a dilemma, kaya nga nagtatanong ako, wala kayong mga recommendation sa amin eh. So apparently you don't find it as a dilemma eh. Kaya kung nga rin-raise ito, kung meron ba kayong mga, yung ano ba nangyayari sa ground, ini-intercept ninyo, kinakasuhan ba ninyo? Anong penalty? Non-bailable ba? Pero bailable naman ito. Sige, pasagutin mo muna ito.
Does Senator Tolentino want to be recognized, or shall we wait for the answer of the sponsor?
Yes,
please proceed.
yes,
Senator Tolentino is recognized.
Mr. President, just to, with the permission of the gentleman, just to make a slight interjection. Your Honor, perhaps the good minority leader is now bordering on a very controversial boundary relative to the medicinal effects of, I'm not an expert here of cannabis, I just rise, Mr. President, because this has been a very controversial issue in so far as the results of our, one of our newly proclaimed sports heroes, the results of the doping test on Justin Brownlee, allegedly from another country, showed some traces of cannabis to treat his left sore foot. So, Mr. President, if the minority leader would intend to pursue his intention of having a new legislated annex that probably would include this very controversial area, perhaps medical experts coming from the Department of Health would have to be the appropriate resource persons here. Baka hindi na masagot ni, although Senator De La Rosa is often referred to as Dr. De La Rosa, another field, public administration. Siguro, Mr. President, on another item, another subject matter, pag-usapan ito. But I agree, it's very pinasok sa Pilipinas, hinarang, pero itong sa kanya, tinurok na sa paa, liable ba yun? Sa ibang jurisdiction naman yun ginamot, considering that if it is correct. Wala pa hong ruling yung Switzerland dito, if it is a correct diagnosis, o baka dinaya lang tayo sa Asian Games. So, I think, Mr. President, is very timely. Pag-aralan po siguro na magkaroon ng bagong batas tungkol dito. Thank you, Mr. President.
But yes, does the sponsor want to say anything?
Well, I just would like to point out, Your Honor, that during our talks with some, I just don't want to reveal these people, the names of these people, but high government officials of Thailand. Baka mamaya we will have a knee-jerk reaction to this situation, no? Na hanapan talaga natin ng paraan na legal na makapasok yan, since legal doon sa ibang bansa, like for example Thailand. Nakausap po natin yung mga opisyal ng ibang bansa like Thailand. Sabi nila, yes, yung legalizing all those things ay good for their tourism. Maraming tourist pumapasok doon to avail of the legal status of that particular substance. But they have problem as far as their children are concerned. Kasi itong mga tindahan na ito ay walang limit kahit saan nilalagay. Kahit sa gilid ng eskwelahan, merong ganitong mga vending machine na anytime they can avail of that, then ang mga bata can easily access to this. So problema rin nila yan ngayon. Sinabi nila sa akin, pero hindi lang nila alam kung talagang yan ay official statement ng kanilang gobyerno, kaya ayaw nilang, hindi ko lang muna silang i-quote
Yes.
officially.
But that's not that's beyond what we're talking about.
Yes,
Mr.
yes,
President.
yes. I am just moving forward. I'm just moving forward, Your Honor.
Malayo na po yan because that includes
I'm just moving forward.
planting, growing, and even recreational use of we are that's not our topic, Mr. President. Yun lang ako, there's a phenomenon happening that an extract of cannabis which is found to be non-addictive is already legally available in markets of other countries. where Filipinos are exposed to, we visit those countries. And siguro unwittingly, in good faith, nabibili, nadadala rito. Tinatanong ko, nararamdaman nyo na ba yan? Nangyayari ba yan? How do you treat such a situation? Okay, sabi nyo, you cannot change the annex or any, you need a law. Okay, klaro. So how do you treat them? You file cases against them? Are the cases non-bailable? Para maramdaman namin ng urgency kung gano'n, because may konting unfairness na doon. Pero tama yun, you're implementing the law. Ignorance of the law excuses no one, but the legislators must react to situations on the ground, Mr. President.
Well, depende, Your Honor, kung non-billable or not, depende sa threshold. Or the nature of the position, that's trafficking. Then pinapasok mo dito. Non-billable yun. So, non-billable, Your Honor.
Non-bailable.
Non-billable.
Okay, so,
Oh.
I don't know, ako,
Importation.
that's why tinatanong ko yung what is happening on the ground, and it's from the knowledge of the DDB. So, okay, so siguro nga we need to urgently revisit this kasi baka in good faith binibili dun eh. So, but we're limiting it to that extract which scientific data is telling us that it is non-addictive, di ba? Di ba? Yun naman yata yung and even non-addictive and non-mind altering. Yun yata ang importante sa lahat eh, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President, according to DDB, until now, WHO is still in the process of research as far as that
is concerned.
particular,
Sige pa.
yeah.
Sige,
Iguy pa daw.
yung may alam siguro yung ibang countries, pero hindi naman tayo din siyempre gaya-gaya lamang. I'm just worried about those who will be facing criminal cases na wala namang criminal intent. Although this is a special law, so criminal intent is not necessary for the commission of the crime. So Mr. President, so thank you. No? Wala kasi ako ibang mapagtanungan except PDEA and DDB for the actual situation on the ground. Ngayon, ito siguro last topic. Ito po, I cannot let this go kasi malaki yung halaga doon sa ating there's a COA finding of lack of periodic monitoring and control procedures resulting in unliquidated fund transfers totaling 315 million pesos as of December 31, 2022. So, siguro, Mr. Sponsor, Mr. President, paano ba nila ito i-address, Mr. President?
The DDB Secretariat, Your Honor, has proposed to the board stringent measures to better facilitate the fund transfer, monitoring and liquidation of the funds provided to drug abuse treatment and rehabilitation facilities, including community-based drug rehabilitation facilities. The additional mechanism aims to further streamline the accountability procedure in fund transfer, Your Honor.
The recipients are also government entities or private entities?
Yes, Your Honor, there are drug treatment rehabilitation center and local government units that are maintaining and operating rehabilitation centers.
What other agency operates a drug rehabilitation center aside from an LGU?
DOH, Your Honor.
DOH.
DOH.
Pero ang pera, nasa DDB ang pera, and then
It's DDB is the conduit of the funds, Your Honor. Dinadaan lang sa DDB, then dinidistribute din sa kanila.
released by the DBM?
DBM to DDB, then
Yes.
there's a MOA between DDB and the implementer of the
Yes,
rehabilitation program. Your
Okay,
Honor.
saan kaya, if just in case anybody knows, sang item in the GAA kinukuha ng DBM yung transferred amount? Meron ba yun? Special?
SEJF, Your Honor, special account under general fund.
Okay, so not, okay. So it's an automatic appropriation siguro. Just inform us saan nanggagaling yung amounts to be deposited to that SAGF account, Mr. President. Sige, kahit na in writing na lang po, Mr. President.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, and then I hope by next year wala na po ito. We do not encounter this report. Maliliquidate na natin itong 315.7 million.
Yes, Your Honor. DDB promised to limit these deficiencies next year. If possible, totally eliminate all these deficiencies. But
Yes.
they will do their best, Your Honor. Because that is a recurring problem, Your Honor.
Hindi, bakit nga?
We hope it will not recur next year.
It's-
Bakit recurring?
It's an ongoing program. Dapat natututo tayo over the years, Mr. President. Hindi na siya recurring problem.
Your Honor, every year they are released with that 77 million, and if the projects are implemented in 2 years, so naturally the following year hindi pa tapos itong project na ito. So talaga recurring talaga kasi yung ibang project maybe aabot ng 3 years. So at the end of the year magkakaroon talaga ng COA findings na gano'n, Your Honor.
But
So
siguro-
kaya nga maganda na rin at binibigyan sila ng avenue to explain themselves.
dapat nalilesen din.
At talaga, Your Honor,
Apo.
dapat malilisen.
So, is the DDB a recipient of any confidential or intelligence fund?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Congratulations. And then last topic, Mr. President, have you heard of dangerous drugs being given as a reward?
Your Honor,
Nababasa natin yan. Gusto ko ba i-confirm kung totoo?
yes, that has been taken up in almost all our committee hearings, no? But PDEA and DDB and even the PNP always deny that policy. Talagang non-existent yan na policy, Your Honor. Kung meron mang gumagawa niyan, maybe yung mga it is not sanctioned or talagang it's downright prohibited by the leadership of this agency, Your Honor. But anyway, the Director General PDEA gave stern warning to the operatives to never do this kind of reward system. PDEA strictly implements the Operation Private Eye, which was institutionalized through Dangerous Drugs Board regulation as a reward system for our private informants, which is anchored on Section 22 of Republic Act number 916. Meaning cash ang reward ng mga informants, Your Honor, hindi talaga drugs. We also require our operatives to use body-worn cameras during operations to promote integrity in the anti-illegal drug campaign and ensure compliance with the law on the proper disposition of illegal drugs. So, they are very consistent in denying that accusation, Your Honor.
Okay. If our sponsor says na it never happened, I will no longer pursue it kasi in-entertain natin, chismis na eh. So if it never happened, our sponsor says hindi nangyari yan, he's our top-notch investigator here in the Senate. Alam niya nangyayari. So,
Yes, Your
so
Honor.
I will not pursue it anymore kasi di ba, pinapropagate natin yung kwento, hindi pala totoo.
Yes, Your
sige
Honor.
po.
It was clearly explained by no less than the General Morolaso during one of our hearings that meron lang yung pag-upo niya, meron lang nagpapasiklab na informant na lumapit, nag-offer at right away sinabihan niya it is not our policy. Merong hindi siya part of the PNP or
Yes.
PDEA organization, isang civilian
I get it.
na informant.
Na kwento lang niya yung
Kwento.
offer.
Oo,
And the offer involved, sabi niya na I'll give you information on this. Ito yung hall ninyo, but
Basta ibalik niyo sa akin
bigyan
ng ganito.
Okay. So nakwento.
oo.
Yun ang nagbigay ng buhay sa isa pang kwento na wala naman palang factual basis. So,
Yes, Your
so thank
Honor.
you for that clarification, Mr. Sponsor. And I find the overall the level of the budget of the Dangerous Drugs Boards at a reasonable level, Mr. President. So we wish you all the best. Pero next time you encounter a dilemma, share the dilemma with us para alam namin na it's already a dilemma to you. Ano? Okay,
Yes.
hindi yung nagtatanong pa tayo ngayon and then you tell us it's a dilemma na pala. So, ano po tayo? Proactive. Let's take some proactive steps kasi evolving din yung evolving ang science, 'di ba? Gumagalaw din ang science and this is also based the annexes are based on scientific findings. So, thank you. We wish the Dangerous Drugs Board all the best and once again we thank our sponsor, Mr. President. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Minority Leader. Salamat.
Thank you very much, Majority Leader.
Mr. President, there being no other reservation for interpellation, I move that we close the period of interpellation and consider the budget of the Dangerous Drugs Board and PDEA to be deemed submit.
There being no...
Only Dangerous Drugs Board.
PDEA, may PDEA ka? Yeah. Mayroon pa PDEA.
I have questions for PDEA. I thought
Okay.
that was the
So
procedure
dangerous
we're
drugs
following.
board.
Dangerous drugs board we approve, Mr. President.
Okay,
I'll recall my motion, Mr. President.
yes, to be amended to just the Dangerous Drugs Board.
Dangerous drugs board.
There
Okay.
being no objection, the motion is approved, that the budget of the Dangerous Drugs Board is hereby deemed submitted. We'll ask now the PDEA to remain.
PDEA is already seated there with us. Okay. So let's continue, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Okay. PDEA is a recipient of CIF.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is it CF or IF?
It's CF, Your Honor.
To the tune of,
500 million, Your Honor.
is this, has PDEA been getting this amount year after year, Mr. President?
Yes, Your Honor. It has been consistent since
For how many years na siguro? At,
since 2019, Your Honor.
Okay.
It's 500.
Yes.
But before 2019, mababa lang, Your Honor. Mababa, 400 plus, 200 plus the year before. Then it was 2016 nga, 73 lang.
if I remember correctly, ang PNP magkano? Ang PNP yata, CF ng PNP nasa 800, yes, tama, parehas kami naalala ni Senator Tolentino, around 800 million. And that the PNP is enforcing the revised penal code and many other laws, Mr. President. I mean, but in ratio and proportion, is the amount we are giving the PDEA unreasonably high, Mr. President?
Well, Mr. President, pag sinabi ng PNP, kulang sila, sabi rin ng PDEA, kulang na kulang pa rin talaga yan.
Siyempre, kasi pero we have to measure it sa standards po natin as legislators, Mr. President. 500 for PDEA, drugs laws ang ano niya. 800 for PNP, revised penal code and many other special laws. Ang point ko, hindi sa kulang sa PNP. Are we giving too much to PDEA, Mr. President?
Maybe, Your Honor, because PDEA is combating transnational crimes, Your Honor. Malalaking sindikato ito at medyo mas mahirap kumuha ng informasyon pagdating dito sa drug syndicates, Your Honor.
Pina-enumerate ko sa PNP ang mga achievements nila eh. Kasama sa mga achievements nila are drug-related operations eh. So may nag-overlapping na po tayo sa PNP. And pag tinanong ko po ang PDEA, what are your achievements? Tapos ikukumpara ko ngayon sa sagot dun sa PNP, I'm sure I will find some overlapping dun eh, sa dalawa.
Well, it happens, Your Honor, because they conduct joint operations, Your Honor, the PNP and PDEA. So some accomplishments are joint and some accomplishments are... but all operations were being sanctioned by PDEA, whether it's being undertaken by PDEA operatives or PNP operatives. Lahat po yan ay under the supervision of PDEA, being the lead agency in the anti-drug operations.
Sige, can we hear from PDEA, Mr. President, through our sponsor, ano po yung, let us say, for the past 2 years, what would be your greatest achievements, Mr. President?
Sana yun.
Kahit na hanggang 5 po, the top 5 or the top 3, Mr. President.
Mr. President, for 2023 alone, the accomplishments of PDEA are as follows. 1,068 positive intelligence operations were conducted. 2,386 drug-related negation operations were conducted. 72 high-impact operations were conducted. 3,196 drug personalities were arrested. 50 minors were rescued. 263 high-value targets were arrested. 2.3 billion worth of dangerous drugs were confiscated. 5,702 drug cases were filed in courts. 5 additional Balay Silangan Reformation Centers were established. 1,850 advocacy activities were conducted. 27,903 barangays were drug cleared as of October 31, 2023. That's so far the operational accomplishments of PDEA.
Ito po,
Your Honor.
suggestion lang, Mr. President, na napapansin ko when they announce their achievements. You use the value. Pero I suggest hindi ako tumitingin sa value. We have to look at the volume. Kasi value, siyempre, naging 500 pesos, tumaas ang value. Pero look at the volume siguro of the of the whole of the catch. So, sige, so yung 2.3 billion pesos na nabanggit, ilang kilos po yun and what kind of drugs? Pag nagbabasa nga ako ng mga reports, nakikita ko yung mga amount, billions na. Pero I'm not impressed. Dapat na doon tayo sa ilang kilos po yun, ano pong volume yun.
Yes, Mr. President, as far as volume is concerned, 28,826 kilograms of crystalline shabu, 714 liters of liquid shabu, 99 billion pieces of marijuana plants, 16 billion pieces of marijuana seedlings.
Ano, may counting machine sila, Mr. President. You have a counting machine. You counted the seeds.
Well, individually, yung seedlings, Mr. President, hindi seeds. Seedlings.
Seedlings.
Seedlings talagang.
Seedlings.
By area daw yung computation, Mr. President.
Estimate. We were just
Yeah.
lightening the mood, Mr. President. Okay. Estimated yun. Okay. Apo. Sige pa, Mr. President, can we get the assessment of our PDEA Director General on how bad the drug problem is, the illegal or dangerous drugs problem is in the Philippines? How bad is it?
So, Mr. President, the drug situation in the Philippines is still under control. Very much manageable, Mr. President. No cause for alarm as of now, Mr. President. The drug problem is under control. It's not
Okay.
really that bad.
It's not really that bad. Okay. Siguro, okay. So, PDEA is a 21-year-old agency? Siguro.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, by this time nga siguro, with all of the resources being poured into PDEA, that should be the case. Sana nga, it has become a minor problem because the manufacturers, the traffickers are afraid to come here. Sana ganun ang nangyayari. It's not yet a minor problem?
Yeah, not yet a minor problem, Mr. President.
Ano pang kailangan gawin natin, Mr. President? To make the Philippines unattractive for drug traffickers, importers, and even manufacturers, Mr. President. Ano pa kaya ang kailangan natin gawin? Kasi 21 years old na po ito. Laki ng resources na binubuhos natin sa PDEA. Specialized Agency for Drugs. Dapat nararamdaman na natin ang resulta ng devotion of great resources to the fight against drugs, illegal drugs, Mr. President.
Again, Mr. President, I think we will go back again to the reimposition of death penalty against those high-profile or high-level drug traffickers, Mr. President, because if you have observed, countries that have that are imposing death penalty, particularly on illegal drugs, they are not encountering a big problem as far as drug is concerned, like China, Indonesia, Singapore. When you talk to the drug lords in Bilibid, they will say that they will not dare traffic drugs to Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, or China because for sure they will be killed by because the law is very strict. They will
Killed by the state. Killed by the state. By the state. Legal. What does the sponsor have in mind? Ano yung mga levels natin na which should warrant the death penalty in his mind, Mr. President?
When we say yes, Mr. President, the proposal of PDEA is that if the country of origin of these drugs or the country of origin of the drug offender imposes death penalty, when they are caught here in the Philippines, when they are arrested here in the Philippines, they should be meted with the death penalty also.
Following the same quantities in the country of origin. Kasi I'm sure may quantities din sila
Yes,
doon sigurado.
yes, Your Honor. That is why these Chinese are very fond of trafficking drugs to the Philippines because wala tayong death penalty. While in China, sigurado mamamatay sila doon.
Sige po, yung mga nahuhuli natin sa drug cases natin, where are they detained, Mr. President?
Those who are convicted, Mr. President, are serving their sentences at the new Bilibid prisons, while those pending pending sentence, they are still with the BGMP.
BGMP jails.
And,
Okay.
yeah.
Normal
They're
procedure.
normal, Mr.
Hindi ba yung ating mga jails and prisons ay hell on earth? Hindi ba sufficient deterrent na yan to involve in drug trafficking in the Philippines?
Maybe not, Mr. President, because they're enjoying inside, like the drug lords in the Bilibid, they enjoy while they are inside.
Okay. So they don't find it to be hell on earth pala. Okay, Mr. President. Maybe they're under the influence of drugs, Mr. President. Maybe they're still under the influence of drugs. That's why they don't feel the hell on earth being held in jails and prisons here in the Philippines, Mr. President.
Maybe, Mr. President, and others become even more richer while they are incarcerated. While they are serving their sentence, they are even getting richer because
Sige.
the drug trade is continuing.
So that's Bucor and BJMP issues. Anyway, nakalusot na po sila sa process natin. Approve na yung budgets nila. So let me just siguro appeal to the Director General. Sir, there have been past scandals involving PDEA, putting the agency in a bad light. Huwag na natin ulitin siguro para alam na siguro ng taong bayan yun. So siguro, sir, I do not know how you can instill a better discipline among your men. No? Kasi
Their internal cleansing program, Your Honor, is still ongoing.
pero
They will not stop.
yung nabasa ba namin, totoo ba yun? Like for example, ayoko na sana i-remind, pero I just need to confirm na yung PDEA personnel or chief involved in drug trade, illegal drugs trading, yung Taguig, tama ba yun? Ang
Yung
nabasa
nahuli.
namin. Totoo yun?
Yes, Your Honor, it was confirmed that talagang nangyari yun.
Your CIF can be used for counterintelligence, and counterintelligence means monitoring your own men, di ba?
Yes.
Why did we fail in that instance, Mr. President?
Yes, according to the PDEA chief, Your Honor, the case that you mentioned a while ago was his first accomplishment upon assumption of office.
That
and
was the result of your counterintelligence work, Ale. Okay, sige.
Yes, Your Honor, through counterintelligence efforts of PDEA and in coordination with the Philippine National Police.
Okay, so you put it to good use in that case, Mr. President. Kasi ayun, ano yung about Caesar's wife, ano yung kasabihan? Dapat si PDEA ganun. I mean, I don't know, I need assistance from Senator Tolentino. Ano yun? You should be above suspicion, like Caesar's wife, ganun ba yung ano? So PDEA should be you should be above suspicion that your own people are trading in or involved in illegal drugs. Malinis dapat kayo kasi otherwise hopeless talaga ang drug situation, Mr. President. So I hope that you have more achievements to come. You're a 21-year-old agency. Sana by the time you're 25 years old, 30 years old, I mean, minor problem na siya, as minor as nag-iisip ako anong crime in the RPC which is already a minor problem, Mr.
Snatching,
President.
Your Honor.
We need PNP data, mga ganun. So, I hope ganun po ang nangyayari. So, even without the need of the reimposition of death penalty, kasi divisive issue yun, magtatagal po talaga. If that is the solution, therefore parang we're admitting there is no solution. Kasi, that will be debated to death actually.
Yes.
That is the penalty for the proposal for the reimposition of death penalty.
Is
It
debate
is the
to
death
death.
penalty itself. We will debate it to death, Mr. President. So, sana po, sa next time, hindi po yun ang sagot kasi otherwise parang walang sagot. So, when I ask for ano pa pwede natin gawin, sana hindi po yun ang sagot, Mr. President.
Yes, we just hope and pray with the current leadership of PDEA, Your Honor, I can assure you, I know General Morolaso, how strict he is and he was and he will be.
When did the General become the PDEA chief? When?
During the assumption of this current
July 1?
administration, July 1.
20?
November 2019, Your Honor. At 2022.
Okay, November 2022. Isang taon pa lang. Isang taon.
pa
Sige,
lang.
we wish you all the best, Director General. Sabi nating sponsor, you are a reformer. So, you are a strict person, straight. Sige, we wish you all the best. Suporta kami kung ganyan po kayo.
Nung
Hindi ko kayo
kanitip-
kilala, pero I'm sure kilala ka na yung sponsor. So,
Nung kaniti pa kami, Your Honor, pag makita ko si General Lasso, ay talagang nagkikinto na kami sa hallway. Kung makasibat ba kami, sibat. Pero kung hindi ba kasibat, talagang nagkikinto na kami.
upper-classman.
Upper class ko po siya. And hindi ka talaga makalusot sa kanya pag mahinang klase ka.
Sige po, we wish you all the best. Pero pasensya na, General, because we will have to really strictly monitor the activities of your agency. And we will be sensitive to complaints, reports that we read, feedback from the ground. Abuses ang ating pagbawalan, abuses, and then just be more disciplined in the conduct of your activities and the performance of your mandate. So we wish you all the best and thank you, Mr. Sponsor. Salamat.
Thank you, Minority Leader. Maraming salamat po.
Very much, Minority Leader. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, again, there being no other reservation for interpellation, I move that we close the period of interpellation and consider the budget of PIDEA to be deemed submitted for the body's consideration.
There being no objection to the motion, Majority Leader, the budget of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency is hereby deemed submitted. Congratulations, gentlemen.
1 minute suspension.
Just on a side note,
Oh.
baby ko din yan because I was a member of Congress. I was the principal author of the Dangerous Drugs Law together with Senator Barbers. Kasama ko noon si Congressman Cuenco and myself. We were the principal authors. So, offshoot yun. We created the PIDEA. So, congratulations for how many years?
21 years.
21 years old na pala sila. 21 years old.
Does that mean, Mr. President, that you've been the legislature for that very long time already?
Yes. 25 na po ako, sir. 25.
25?
Yes, sir.
25, sorry. 25?
25 years na po. When I end my term, 30 years. Kaya pahinga na.
30 years.
Time to fade away like a good soldier, like Sergeant General Angkan here, who's he's only how young, very young. So there, without further ado, congratulations. Session suspended for 1 minute.
Picture.
A motion to recognize the sponsor, Senator Jinggoy Estrada, and to interpellate our minority leader, Senator Coco Pimentel. So move, Mr. President.
The sponsor, Senator Jinggoy Estrada, is acknowledged and to interpellate Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel.
Mr. President, Mr. President, I just would like to inform the body that the Department of National Defense has informed me that the data that I need with regard to this bill will only be available on February. But with the aid and with the help of our main proponent of this bill, none other than Senate President, I think, I hope we can answer the questions of the Minority Floor Leader, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we ask the technicians to make our sound sharper and louder, Mr. President?
Yes, can we ask the
Yes, please.
technicians to
Yes,
increase
Mr.
the volume?
President. Yes, okay. At any rate, Mr. President, let us just take advantage of the fact that our sponsor is here, the main author is also here, our Senate President and the resource persons are here to talk about the general concept of this bill, Mr. President, which is entitled An Act Providing for the Development of a National Defense Industry through... No, wait, Mr. President, I'll just read the committee report. Yes, the committee has suggested the following title: An Act Revitalizing and Strengthening the Self-Reliant Defense Posture Program and Promoting the Development of a National Defense Industry pursuant thereto and providing funds therefore. So, Mr. President, from the title, we get a hint of what the bill is all about. And from the terms used, self-reliant defense posture, it's a good goal, Mr. President, to strive for, Mr. President. So may we know what is the status of our defense posture or defense situation, Mr. President? Are we importing almost all of our requirements for defense, Mr. President?
Regarding your first question, I think it's very poor. We always we export. We import. No? We import almost all defense materials, Mr. President. However, Mr. President, the Department of National Defense is currently reviving the SRDP program through a whole of nation and whole of government approach. The Defense Department is now preparing the SRDP roadmap that will serve as the impetus for the revitalization of the SRDP program, Mr. President. And the SRDP concept strategic roadmap is being conceptualized by integrating the AFP, the SRDP strategic concept plan, and the modernization plan of government arsenal. Moreover, foundational strategies are considered within the ambit of the Philippine Development Plan of 2023 to 2028 in establishing transformation agenda to achieve a prosperous, inclusive, and resilient society. Mr. President, in 2022, military-related imports totaled approximately $305 million, while arms-related exports only amounted to $85 million. And, Mr. President, we aim to cure this significantly lopsided trade imbalance by providing incentives and government support to local defense industry, and in the process stimulate job generation, promote transfer of advanced technologies, and expand our export sector, Mr. President.
Well, good news pa nga, Mr. President, that we have $85 million worth of exports in the military items industry, Mr. President. So, but then, of course, we import $305 million per our sponsor. What would be our exports, Mr. President? Our exports.
85 million. As I mentioned earlier, Mr. President, it will amount to $85 million.
Yes, what are these items, Mr. President?
Items. Firearms and ammunition from the United States? To the United States, Mr. President. What else?
That's it.
That's about it, Mr. President.
And then what are our military imports, Mr. President?
Cannons, cannon shells,
Cannon shells,
ships,
ships,
personal protective gear, helmets,
personal protective gear, for example, like helmets, etc., etc.
Rifles,
handguns,
aircraft,
helicopters, aircrafts,
missile systems,
everything to do with the
Modernization Act.
and everything to do with the Modernization Act, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. So makikita natin we are importing items which are heavy in technology.
Yes, Mr.
While we are exporting, siguro, although may technological content, but masasabi natin of lower technological content, firearms and ammunition, so Mr. President. So what is the plan of this bill, Mr. President? That if we will have this, if this becomes law, sooner or later, we will be producing the items mentioned as military imports here in our country, Mr. President. Yes.
Well, Mr. President, the main objective of our SRDP program is to develop and establish an independent and dynamic defense system that solely relies on the country's own capabilities and resources in order to support the requirements of the armed forces of the Philippines and do away from dependence on foreign manufacturers in the acquisition of defense equipment. Mr. President, with government support and direct negotiations with the direct local suppliers, I think I am very positive that we can achieve this, because all countries all over the world supports their own business. Like, for example, India, 67% of all their defense materials must be manufactured in India. And for example, the United States of America, they have this Buy America policy. But here in the Philippines, we always import. Yes, I think the Senate President wishes to add something, Mr. President.
Yes, please.
With the permission of our distinguished Minority Floor Leader and the sponsor, just to add to the discussion, Your Honor, because ito talaga, this is my expertise for the last 20 years I'm a shooter, where we believe in self-reliance defense posture. The good sponsor is correct, Your Honor, by saying India, Brazil, even Indonesia makes their own ships. They do they give all the incentives for local manufacturers to make their armaments and the defense equipment there in-house, so that they're hiring local laborers. The United States, when you win, for example, the pistols in 1980s, the U.S. Army won the Beretta 92. The Beretta 92, the colatillo is, if you want to supply the U.S. military with their Berettas, Italy, the Italian company, had to set up shop in the States, and they did in Atlanta, Georgia. Same with Fabrique Nationale for the the small machine guns, and later on the Sig Sauer for the military, they had to set up shop. We would like that to happen also, Your Honor, as well in the Philippines, wherein if these companies want to sell firearms to the armed forces or the armed services, they have to set up shop in the Philippines and build and manufacture it here in our country, in C2. So that way, they pay income taxes. They pay, of course, they hire more laborers. They create more jobs. So that is the idea of this SRDP, Your Honor. And I'd like to mention, in 1972, we had this during the time of former President Marcos, and many shooters here, and even the gentlemen that are there, including the retired General Katapang. Naalala nyo, nung kayo po dati pang, may Philippine Constabulary dito at military, yung baril nyo ay Elisco. The Elisco M16 was actually developed and made, Elizalde Tool Company. It was designed and made in the Philippines. It was actually even exported to Vietnam during the Vietnam War, and the Thai military, they used it. So we had that. We even had a vehicle program. Naalala po nila yung mini cruiser. I remember because I was a young boy in Mindanao, in Bukidnon, yung kami, sasakyan po namin ay mini cruiser. That was only sold and manufactured in the Philippines and exported. That was a design made by the Filipinos with Toyota Mini Cruiser. So nawala na po yan, and sayang, napakasayang. So just to add, when Marawi, Your Honors, the Marawi siege happened, that's when we saw the vulnerability of our weapons and defense system. Alam po ng mga general dito, nandyan si General Acorda, they were part of the staff that entered. By day 10, Your Honor, of the siege, naubusan po tayo ng bala. Wala na po tayong bala, wala pong 40, yung sa recoilless rifle, wala na po yung 105 howitzer na rounds natin pang mortar, wala. The President had to reach out to India, to Pakistan, even to Russia, to call President Putin to send ammunition. Ang problema yung hiningan niya, hindi interoperable with our ammo kasi iba yung bala ng Russians, iba yung bala ng ating armed forces dito. Mga punto ko po is, pag wala po tayong self-reliant defense program, and we need ammunition and defense equipment right away, kawawa po tayo. And thankfully, Armscor, which is the largest manufacturer of ammunition, which exports abroad, was here. So nagkaroon po ng direct negotiations because of the incident in Marawi. But if we did not have Armscor here, wala na, madadrag po yung gera because nawalan po ng bala yung ating mga sundalo. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
So thank you for that input, Mr. President. And, yes.
If I may add, Mr. President, thank you, Mr. Senate President. I think Senator Marcos, in submitting her own version of the SRDP bill, also remembered with much pride that her father, former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr., SRDP program was able to manufacture armaments such as M16 rifle, 60mm mortar tube, 81mm mortar tube and gun barrels, ammunitions, hand grenade, and 81mm mortar ammunition, and that the country was able to produce vehicles like the Jiffy Jeeps, if you remember. I think you were already born during that time. Mini cruisers, hovercraft, speedboats, and whaleboat, among others, Mr. President. Just to add, just to give you any information.
Yes,
I hope, Mr. President, that the longer that I answer your question, I hope hindi masyadong mahaba yung tanong mo.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. But this is a very interesting subject matter, and actually, may report din akong na-encounter. There's a worldwide shortage now, I think, of missiles or even, ano bang tawag mo, the shells, if you order because of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, maybe even the one in Israel, Gaza, and some other conflicts, maybe in Yemen, etc. But we are not praying for more conflict, Mr. President. No? We are praying for peace. Peace, which includes the absence of exchange of fire, shelling, etc. So sana, do we have the authors have a counterpart bill to strengthen our Department of Foreign Affairs, Mr. President? Diplomacy naman, to prevent that. Dapat ganun siguro, Mr. President.
With the permission of our colleague, our sponsor, I totally agree with you because none of these people want to go to war. The gentlemen that are on these chairs, I guess they will eventually end up making an ultimate sacrifice of losing their lives, and we don't want them to do that. So I am with you with strengthening the DFA and more diplomacy on that issue. But like everybody said, who was that president? Was it President Roosevelt? I speak softly, but I carry a big stick. So in other words, we are all for diplomacy. But when time comes and you'll always have this situation where somebody might bully you, at least you're ready, both on external defense and internal defense. So yun lamang po. And I think it's also the come on of this measure, Your Honor, Senator Coco, is the number of jobs that we will create. Maybe it's good to announce, to mention now, that an initiative of our budget, the Senate-approved budget, and the good Minority Floor Leader and the Deputy Minority Floor Leader were all in on this, is that, and the whole Senate, we were able to come up with an institutional amendment thanks to our chairperson, and it was not objected to by all members, wherein we added funds to the Coast Guard. for patrol ships because yung patrol ships po mga luma na at kailangan natin sila tulungan. And the government now is deep into negotiations with Austal, Australia. It's an Australian shipbuilding company. And the reason why we'd like to help them is because they have a shipyard in Balamban, Cebu. And in Balamban, Cebu, they can build the ships. So with the passage of the PDIDA, we will prioritize locally made defense equipment. So, ang sabi nga nila sa akin, they told me, Senator, we can build the ships here in 1 year. And we will hire 3,000 shipbuilders. 3,000 shipbuilders for the 3 boats, which is, I will not mention the names of the boats so that hindi po malaman ng ibang tao. But the point is, they're excited to build it here. We don't have to buy it from Australia. They'll build it right here in Cebu.
Are they going to employ Filipinos, Mr. President?
All Filipinos, sir. All Filipinos. And they're giving a guarantee that anything happens to the boats, they will repair the boats in Philippines. And they'll set up a base also for operations with the Coast Guard. So, ang ganda po nitong bill na to. But they can't do it now, sir, Your Honors, if we just allow the same system. Because under the same system, I'll tell you, you're open to bid. It's bidding. So, unang-una, masama po yan. Marami po ditong armed services. Ayaw po nilang malaman ng kalaban sa field jets kung anong bibili ng gobyerno. Diba? Kasi if you project your punches, they will know how to prepare for you. So that's number one. So we can now do direct negotiation with a local company for this defense equipment. Now, if we do it with the old system, bidding po yan. Alam mo, dihado po, sir. Dihado po, sir, yung locally made. I'll tell you why. Sa VAT alone, there's some strange and stupid, and I want to put it on record, there's some strange and stupid regulation somewhere with the BIR and all, that if it's made in the Philippines, they'll charge you 12% VAT. But if it's imported from the States for defense spending, it's 12% exempt, VAT exempt. So imagine, dito mo na ginawa, dapat mas mura, pero malabas mas mahal. So the boat manufacturer, Austal, was saying, sir, we need to put that in the bill because if not, it's going to be cheaper for us to build it in Australia and ship it here, the same ship, than us building it here. So one of my amendments is to make it VAT exempt only for defense materials. So that way, you have an equal level playing field. I can't imagine why meron pong VAT exemption, yung imported, papasok dito, at hindi po yung locally manufactured. I think
with the permission of the Senate President, and the Minority Leader and the sponsor, I totally agree with everything that's been said on the floor by both the sponsor and our good Senate President. I just want to share that during the Tatak Pinoy hearings, we passed the bill. We had about 7 or 8 hearings. One was on manufacturing, and one of our resource persons was precisely the company mentioned by the Senate President. And they shared with us that in the 70s, there were many local Philippine companies bidding for defense and armaments, munitions, but to this day, they're the only remaining one in that business because they did not receive the support from the government, basically. And now that the government or the population is large, it is perhaps time to reevaluate our policies because then I think we were more export-oriented. But here, we should be looking at the domestic market for not just for business or economic reasons, but also for the reasons mentioned by the Senate President to protect our sovereignty, our national interest, our national security. And second, in addition to the tax measure or the tax problem mentioned by the Senate President, there's also a payment problem which hampers our exporters. Apparently, it was shared with me that we allow those foreign suppliers to pay with letters of credit, but when it comes to government deals, but we don't allow locals or local companies to pay with letters of credit. So we are the ones handicapping or pinipilayan po natin yung sarili nating mga kumpanya. Maybe it's not intentional, Your Honors, no? Maybe it's just maybe there's a reason underlying it that makes sense. But yun ang effect or byproduct. So I just wanted to share that so that going forward, we're aware of these problems and when we make decisions, it's not just based on a purely business calculus, but also taking into account all these factors mentioned by the Senate President and the good sponsor. Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Likewise, if I may add, we used to
Mahina, Mike.
manufacture the assault rifles here already. Now we are importing almost everything, but I remember we used to manufacture AR-15s here, the M16s by Elisco, or Elisco Tools back then. That's all, thank you.
So if Arms Corps is the only surviving entity, wala na po yung Elisco Tools? Wala na yan? Wala na po Elisco Tools? Wala na?
Out of, Your Honor, out of 15 companies that were thriving in the 80s, only one left. And they are left, and to be honest, I was just in their show earlier, the tactical show. They remained open in spite of government's very difficult lack of incentives for them kasi they're now the major exporter of ammunition abroad. So their biggest market po is the US. And we're not fully, imagine sa US, ang daming bumibili ng bala nila. Dito walang bumibili. So I mean, konti lang ang bumibili. Makes no sense po that we have to import the ammunition for PNP, for AFP. We end up importing the ammunition and firearms. Makes no sense.
Yeah. And is this bill going to cure the situation described by our Senate President?
Yes, sir. It will level the playing field. At the same time, mawawala na yung VAT. So
Removes
it
the VAT.
removes the VAT. And also, there will be priority on Filipino-made products on the bill. So it's parang priority first Filipino manufactured. Until we have several companies that will be already manufactured here, then they can do the competition amongst themselves.
Yes, because I think our equipment, military equipment and police equipment are compatible with what is used by NATO or by the United States. And if arms corps ammunition are bought in the United States, that means they are compatible with the systems
Yes, sir.
used in the United States. So they must be compatible also with the systems used in the Philippines. So there's no reason why the armed forces and the PNP are not patronizing Philippine-made ammunition like the ones made by Arms Corps, Mr. President.
Even the firearms, Your Honor, with the permission of the sponsor, I had joined, I watched I visited the SHOT Show in Las Vegas. Alam mo yung booth po nila, I was so proud. Yung mga baril made in the Philippines. Tinatangkilik ng mga Amerikano at mga foreign buyers, Europeans sa kanilang mga baril. And tayo, pag sinabi mo made in the Philippines, baduy, parang ano lang,
Paltik.
parang paltik. But yeah, I was so proud to see their booth. It's one of the biggest booths in the SHOT Show. It's the biggest gun show in the whole world, actually. It happens every third week in Las Vegas, of the third week of January. And everybody, troops there, they're so proud. Yung mga artista, there are some actors that are supporting, even endorsing. It's called Rock Island Armory Firearms. And talagang, pag ginagamit nila, hindi nga nila alam, made in the Philippines. They think it's made in the US. So, why don't we support our local industry? They're employing now 3,000 Filipinos in Marikina. Imagine if we pass this, I wouldn't be surprised if right away there will be 10 to 20,000 people in the self-reliance defense program.
Mr. President, if I may interject, I just would like to ask the Senate President if he had already tried firing a Philippine-made gun and a US-made gun or rifle, Mr. President. Or handgun.
Absolutely, Your Honor, my dear sponsor. Yung Elisco ko noon, nasa akin pa. Yung Elisco no original.
Yeah.
Naka-amnesty yan, kaya legal yan. Baka huliin ako kagad ng PNP. Pero meron akong Elisco na dumaan na sa amnesty when we put up the new firearms law. It's still with me. I still shoot it. That's my primary weapon. And that's a 1980s gun. And the Arms Corps, I have several. They shoot fantastic. And even the brand new one that they're making for the armed forces, they're making an M4 piston type na it fires underwater. I saw it myself. Dinagay namin sa loob ng drum. In the water. Boom, 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 boom. Underwater. That's how reliable their firearms are. That's why, sayang naman po kasi palagi tayo bumibili sa Israel. Bibili tayo ng Daewoo sa Korea. Ano yung mga nakita ko, the quality is not the same as, with due respect to these companies, the quality is not the same as the quality that we're making here in the Philippines. So, let's support Filipino-made. Gusto ni Senator Angarian, tatak Pinoy. Tatak Pinoy yan.
Mr. President, if I may,
Yes, Senator De La Rosa.
with the permission of Senator Pimentel and the Senate President and the good sponsor, I think yung sabi ni Senate President na yung paningin ng Filipino, if it is made in the Philippines, is baduy or low quality. For us in the PNP, during my time, nagbabago na po yung outlook na yan because of Arms Corps. Hindi ko sinasabi na porque kilala ko yung Arms Corps, but I have really tested their firearms, lalo yung bagong import nila. Forget about Elisco, yung sinabi mong example, Mr. President, because it's no longer existent. Let's consider the present ones being manufactured by Arms Corps. And I can really say that I've been shooting long firearms for my whole life. But itong gawa ng Arms Corps ngayon ay talagang tatalunin pa yung, kahit sabihin mo yung HK na gawa ng Germany, pagdating sa accuracy, tatalunin pa niya, Mr. President. So, it's not only that I am proud being a Filipino company, pero you can just imagine if we are going to patronize these products na locally made. Ngayon, ang Arms Corps is employing thousands of Filipinos. Kung ipatronize natin yung produkto nila at lumaki itong Filipino company na ito na named Armscor, baka times 10 pa ang Pilipino na may employ nila sa kailang kumpanya dahil palaki na palaki itong kumpanya nila. So, napakarami pong benefits na matatanggap ng Pilipino if we are going to patronize our own product. Mr. President, hindi na natin sabihin na pag local, mahina. Ngayon ang outlook natin is dapat kapag local, mura na, maganda pa. Dependable pa na produkto. That's all, Mr. President.
Ang idadagdag ko pa dyan, with your permission, Mr. President, is dahil local siya, pag may nasirang parte, ayusin nila. Guarantee. Palitan pa nila. Pero kung bibili tayo na imported, pagdating dito, pag sira, basura. Hindi na maayos eh. Hindi na maayos. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes sir, yan po ang gusto ko rin sana sabihin po nating sponsor through his resource person na may guarantee. May guarantee ang firearms na gawa po ng Armscor, kung binili sa Pilipinas, magka-problema, may malalapitan para ayusin.
According to the owner of Armscor, there's an absolute guarantee, Mr. President.
Congratulations for that, Mr. President. Tama po yan. Tsaka I'm sure hindi na gagamit yung guarantee na yon kasi matibay nga eh. Reliable. Mr. President, balik tayo rin sa VAT kasi napaka-importante nun. Kasi parang sabi nga ni Senator Angara, pinipilayan natin sarili natin eh. So maybe if the resource persons know the legal basis, bakit si foreign supplier, finished product na foreign supplier ng military material, for example, even including firearms, exempted from the VAT, and yet in case Armscor bids and wins, may VAT siya?
Actually, Your Honor, Mr. President, I only found out with the permission of the sponsor about this problem 2 weeks ago when I spoke to the Hostile Group, yung ship manufacturer. Then I called up the local manufacturers of firearms. Ganun din daw pala problema nila.
Kaya to directly address the issue, we should look at the legal basis because we looked at the bill. Ito pong nakita namin na nasa Section 11 pa, subparagraph C. It talks about exemption from national internal revenue taxes on the importation of raw materials and critical components. So, finished product dapat yung ating pinag-usapan. Yeah, yes, sir.
It is here pala. We found it. It is under the AFP modernization law. Under Section 17, maybe your staff can research this. Exemption from value-added tax, customs duties. The sale of weapons, equipment, and ammunition to the AFP, which are directly and exclusively used for its projects, undertakings, activities, and programs under the revised, provided that the importation of the same, and this is the exemption, that the importation of the same by the AFP shall be exempt from value-added tax and customs duties. Okay. So yung gusto po natin, level playing field lang, pati yung locally manufactured. Hindi naka-specific.
Yes, hindi naman sa iba, VAT na sa importation, but yet yung ano man tawag mo doon, domestic supplier will also not be subject to
level playing field
yes,
na po.
Yes, and this will be in addition to Section 11, paragraph C, Mr. President, which of the bill found on page 7, Mr. President. So is Armscor, Mr. President, the owner of its own intellectual property, Mr. President?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Mr. President.
It is not a licensee of a foreign corporation?
No, Your Honor. Absolutely all Filipino.
All Filipino, and we have 2 patents as well.
Absolutely all Filipino, Mr. President.
Yes, and then yung mismong
Filipino.
yung mismong idea, mismong mechanism contained in the firearm, the science and the technology in the ammunitions and other products were imagined and executed by Filipino minds, Mr. President. Yun ang importante, Mr. President. Yung bang difference ni Armscor dun sa 14 other companies na nag-collapse? Were they mere licensees, Mr. President?
The reason why we didn't collapse is we concentrated on the commercial market. So, commercial.
According to one of our resource persons from Armscor, the reason that they did not collapse, unlike other defense industries that collapsed before, they concentrated on the commercial market and exports, Mr. President. Unlike the other companies who concentrated on what?
Delivering just to the Philippine government.
On delivering?
To the Philippine government.
Oh, only in delivering to the Philippine market, Mr. President.
International commercial market si arms
Yes,
corps
Mr.
po.
President.
Yeah, so yeah, that is the market na which is not influenced by local businessmen and even by the Philippine government. So that should speak highly about the quality of the products of arms corps, Mr. President. Kung sa international market sila na anong tawag mo doon, lumago at na yun ang bumuhay sa kanila. So congratulations again to Arms Corps, Mr. President. But what would be the role of Arms Corps here in this SRDP, Mr. President?
To bring in foreign partners to help develop defense.
What's the role of Arms Corps in SRDP?
Well, the role of Arms Corps here is to bring in
Foreign partners
foreign partners and
develop the technology needed by the FB.
develop the development needed to strengthen the
Development and technology.
the development and technology to strengthen the armed forces of the Philippines, Mr. President.
Actually, just to add, Your Honor, yung arms corps is only one of several that are
Existing.
existing. But they're the biggest and most pronounced all over the world. So they're helping us. We ask them to help us support this measure so that we can see their model, how it's done properly, how it's done well, and how they're hiring 3,000 jobs Filipinos in Marikina, sir.
Yes,
They're-
parang.
they're-
I think
kapitbahay niyo po,
they're in
kapitbahay
parang,
niyo
yes.
po.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've been there, Mr. President.
Yeah, so they're leading the way for other local sectors or the sector, leading the way for local producers in being able to set up shop also in the Philippines. So that's their role here now. And I guess, what's nice about this is we can get all their complaints kasi they've been bidding with
Yes,
the PNP and the AP. Nakukuha ko lahat ng complaint nila kung saan sila nadadali, red tape, yung ease of doing business or the lack of it and all that. So that's how we were able to come up with this SRDP law.
Yes, can we also get a copy of the litany of the fortunate as well as unfortunate experiences of Arms Corps in dealing with the government, Mr. President?
Absolutely.
Hingin lang
We can ask them to send you a briefer on all the bottlenecks that they've gone through.
So how many defense manufacturers do we have, Mr. President, here in the Philippines?
Mr. President, aside from Arms Corps, we have this PropMech Corporation, which makes vessels, multi-purpose attack craft, patrol vessels, multi-mission patrol boats, shipbuilding management. And we have a company named Thunder Defense, which manufactures armored vehicles, rubber boats, body armor, and helmets. Third is the SAS Shipyard Incorporated, which deals with the repair of the ships, shipbuilding, docking and undocking, use of marine airbags. Number 4, we have the Stoneworks Special International Corporation, which manufactures boats, fiberglass boats. And we have a small company named the United Defense Manufacturing Corporation, or UDMC, which manufactures rifles. And we have this Precision Munitions Incorporated, which manufactures firearms, automotive batteries for military trucks, refurbishing of firearms, ballistic helmets, and bulletproof vests. Number 7, we have Alpha Sigma Defense Industries, which manufactures pistols. And we have Arms Corps Global Defense Incorporated, which manufactures firearms and ammunitions. And number 9, we have the Asia Defense and Armament Corporation, which manufactures rifle scopes, binoculars, powertrain, spare parts, electronics, and armoring, and electronic warfare, and UAV as a service. And number 10, Philcomsat, satellite services. 32? Where is that?
Considered defense
We have,
manufacturing.
according to my staff here, we have 32
32, okay, sige,
existing local defense industries,
that's
Mr. President.
I'm interested in the number. Okay, 32
Yes.
defense material manufacturers, Mr.
Defense
President.
industries, Mr. President.
Defense industry. Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. So that means our bill will initially benefit at least 32, and siguro we are relying on them to use their existing network to to invite locators in the country, if they should they find our incentives worth it, Mr. President, attractive enough. I think that's the main idea. And Arms Corps is the biggest of the 32, so we assume that Arms Corps has the widest international network, Mr. President. So thank you for that, Mr. President. Well, at any rate, Mr. President, what would be the budgetary implication, Mr. President? So we are reviving the SRDP kasi 1972 meron ng SRDP. So paano po ito? Ano pong pagkakagastusan at magkano po?
Well, in the bill, Mr. President, in the bill, Section 17 on page 9, appropriation, an initial funding of 1 billion pesos shall be included in the annual appropriations of the Department of National Defense for the purpose of implementing this act, Mr. President.
Yes, pag meron na tayong SRDP, kasi 1972 last natin ito nakita eh. So we are reviving it. Ano yung,
Yes.
ano po ba pagkakagastusan nito? Ano po ba, meron ba itong location? I-improve ang isang location?
Well,
Ano
according
po,
to our resource persons here, all over the country, Mr. President, like in Bataan, in Subic, where else? Cavite.
Wherever there's eco zones and industries on it.
Maybe where the industries are, like
We just need electricity, water, and roads.
they only need electricity, water, and roads, Mr. President.
So para itong economic zone na
Yes.
defense manufacturing. And who will, unlike the PEZA, where there's a PEZA authority suggesting to the President to proclaim a certain area as an economic zone, what would be the mechanics here, Mr. President?
There shouldn't be a specific economic zone. You shouldn't lump all your defense industries for national defense, so that make it an easy target. There shouldn't be. There should not be any.
One more day. Sa interpellation, one more day. Because sige. Last question.
Can I have a minute suspension, Mr. President?
Minute suspension.
Session suspended.
Or leader. Maybe it should be in any location that the private businesses will deem logistically feasible to set up, Mr. President. The advantage includes all regions that will benefit from employment, and the defense industry will be more secured by not consolidating in only one location, Mr. President. And I think, Mr. President, it is also aligned with the AFP strategic basing plan, Mr. President.
But who will be the final authority, Mr. President, to say na, approve dyan kayo mag-locate? Secretary of National Defense or the President of the Philippines?
Who will chair it?
It should be the Secretary of National Defense.
The Secretary of National Defense, Mr. President.
Yes, because I've seen a lot of delegation of power also here to the Secretary of National Defense.
Yes,
So
Mr.
maybe in the second part of my interpellation, Mr. President, I'll go into the specific provisions of the law. At least for now, nakita na natin yung general overview. And yeah, so far we like the idea, Mr. President, of self-reliant defense posture program. And it's about time. Hindi naman ito magagawa ng isang araw, isang taon. Kailangan umpisa. The first step must be made, and this is the first step to invite them to locate here and require at least transfer of technology, the employment of Filipinos, and of course supplying our defense needs, Mr. President, with reliable items, Mr. President. So with that, Mr. President, I'd like to suspend my interpellation on this subject matter.
Thank you, Minority Leader.
And Mr. President, just to add to what the minority leader said, this time at least we don't even have to rely, once we have a very healthy self-defense program, minority leader, we don't need to rely on any ally. Diba now we're relying eh. We're waiting for them to give us equipment, we're waiting. But once we build our own shipbuilding facility, like India, which has their own aircraft carriers. Indonesia is building now their own aircraft carriers. They have their own submarines also. They bought some, they reverse engineered it. Now they're making their own submarines. So sabi ko, and aircraft, jets. Ayaw nagagawa po. We don't have to rely on anyone else. I think that's the best. For all those in this chamber who believe in defending our territory, let's build it here in the Philippines, this defense equipment. So maraming salamat to the minority leader and to the sponsor for allowing me to interject.
Yes, Senator
President.
Villar is recognized.
Mr. President, I'd just like to say, as the chairman of the Committee on Trade and Commerce, that it's always been my advocacy to support our local businesses and make them internationally competitive. And I had the honor of being inside the factory of Arms Corps, and I saw firsthand that they use the most modern equipment. Pag ginagawa po yung mga barel, talagang naka-laser, lahat ng mga machines nila, laser, all the latest technologies that are used internationally are being used by Arms Corps. And I'd also like to add that the defense industry now, which I read recently that the Korean defense industry just closed the biggest deal ever with Poland for arms deal. So napakalaki ng potential po ng arms industry worldwide. And we are at a point where we are already internationally competitive. Armscor sells some of the one of the most popular brands in the U.S. The Rock Island Army brand is one of the most popular firearms brand in the U.S. So they are already internationally competitive. If we can give more support to companies like Armscor in the defense industry, I'm confident that we can generate tens of thousands of jobs. That's why I believe that we should pass this bill at the soonest possible time. We need to support our local industries. We need to help them become internationally competitive. Unfortunately, we have not been able to give them the support that they need, but this bill is an opportunity for us to give that much needed support, create jobs, create an industry that can compete internationally. So with that, Mr. President, I'd just like to express my full support, and I hope that we can pass this legislation at the soonest possible time for the benefit of all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
So hanggang dito lang tayo mga tol. Maraming salamat sa panonood at patuloy na suporta. God bless you sa inyo lahat at hanggang sa muli. Paalam!